nobody's gonna judge you if you try and pick up a new skill or a new art or a new whatever and you're not good at it right away. It stems from this symbol.
Illuminati?
No, it's at the end of the day, you can be super talented. You can have a crazy product that is like, you know, like way more talented than some of the people who are, you know, big and known. But if you don't know how to market that product and get that song seen or whatever, it's never gonna go past your basement. Oh man, it's just, I'm crazy. I'm just crazy. Delegation is important. Can't do everything yourself. Don't try and do everything yourself. If somebody's better than you at something, let them be better than you at it and just bring them on board and say, hey, I think we're gonna look back on this and it's gonna be like, see, when we thought that was getting ahead,
Yeah, exactly.
look at us now. You're the third brand that has popped up since I started LoClasse that's called Lowkey.
Okay.
But I think yours is gonna stick. Hi, my name is Damiano and you're watching Disney Channel. No, sorry. You're watching Lowkey MTL.
You're in the music scene, you're also like in the marketing world.
Yeah, well, all right, so I started off, I love electronic music. Like, I love electronic music. There's no other genre of music or whatever. Like, I love dubstep specifically, but I like all electronic music. And there's no type of music that like makes me feel a certain way the way electronic music does. It's the first music I fell in love with when I was like I could remember 2008. I listened to Caspa and Rusko had a mix that came out from a live show they did at Fabric in the UK, and that was like a turning point for me in terms of the type of music that I wanted to just, you know, be surrounded by. And then Skrillex came out with Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites like a few years after that, and I was everybody just started to be like, oh, what's this? You know, people started to like create electronic music more in Western America rather than just, you know, Europe, which is where most of the stuff originated from. And
how did you find that?
YouTube, man. I don't know. I was like a YouTube scoundrel back then. I just which is so funny because I'd rarely use it now, but I don't know. I need to get back into exploring YouTube because I feel like there's a whole lot of cool content, like Lowkey. Like I was saying, I got into this kind of music at a very young age. So I started to go to shows at a very young age. And I remember I went to a show at one point and like I'm there and I'm sober and everybody's like all fucked up and older than me. I don't know if I can swear on this. Okay. Everybody's all fucked up and older than me, and the guys who are hosting the event were like, it was this kid that's just here. You know, like they talked to me and they realized like, you know, I'm not messed up like everybody else here. I'm just there to watch the music. So they took me in the back and introduced me to the artist, and I was like, holy shit, like, like this is awesome, you know? And that was where I was like, you know, like I want to be involved in this stuff. So I decided I wanted to be a DJ. So I learned how to DJ 2013. So not that long ago. Like I have friends in high school. Shout out Matt Cup and Harry, the Machados, who are also super talented and would love to get them on this at some point.
For sure, yeah.
They've been DJing much longer than me, you know, and they were with me when, you know, I started doing all this stuff, and I started to learn how to DJ in 2013. Decided I want to be putting on shows. I want to play. So I really just did everything possible to get into the nightlife scene more than I was.
What was your learning process? Was it like self-taught?
Self-taught, yeah. Okay, self-taught, and I had help from certain older people who have been DJing for a while.
Where are you learning in 2013? Like, there's not
Dawson Radio. Dawson Radio changed my life, man. It doesn't exist anymore. I think they closed it the year after I left Dawson.
Okay.
But they had a radio room where that was like, you know, they have like clubs, different types of clubs, like video game club, whatever club. Like so when I left high school and I went to CJEP and I was like, I want to see what the college life has to offer. The first place that got me drawn in was the radio room, and because I was like, yo, there's live music coming from here. I love this stuff. I'm gonna go check it out.
And there's like resources, and
there's
machines.
They had a full. Back then it was CDJ 1000s with actual CDs. So I had to burn CDs and put them in and mix off that.
Shit, yeah.
And I learned how to mix like that. And then we got the 2000s there. And that was a game changer for me. As soon as I could put music on a USB, I was like all day, every day, skipping class. Really not good. Like really not good for my academic career. But I was spending like 6 hours a day, every single day, learning how to DJ. So by the end of it, man, I could DJ with my eyes closed now. And at the same time, everybody who's coming in and out of there all had the same passion, all had the same drive in terms of music. and they wanted to,
ideas,
they wanted to do shows also. They wanted to throw parties. They wanted to play. Everybody wanted to have that same feeling that I wanted and the same goals that I had of, getting into that nightlife scene and just performing. So I remember forming a team back then with some pretty talented individuals, and we just decided, screw it, we're gonna go in full force and just get as many of the venues on Saint Laurent as possible to allow us to throw shows. And we just threw a bunch of shows, one after another, that were like, we did even hip hop nights, which is not something I would normally do personally. I'm more of like I said, electronic music.
But you guys were just exploring, right?
Yeah. We just did it to get known by these people who were hosting all the events or who were owning the venues or whatever. And we weren't a big team. We were like 6 DJs and then 2 people who were like admin. And we really everybody's still doing music now.
So you guys just kind of delegated jobs for each person and just went on with it?
Pretty much. Okay, so almost everybody I think is still doing music that were part of the team initially.
What was your process of finding clubs? Were you just cold calling or just showing up to them?
Just showing up. We'd go party first and then party, but we'd get really more like a networking thing. We'd go and we'd say, all right, we're gonna have a night here, but I want to meet the owner. Just go get to know the bartender and say, can I talk to the owner? And we did that for so many places, man. So many places that don't exist anymore.
And it worked most of the time, or all the time?
Almost every time.
Okay. So
we became friends with a lot of them.
What was your pitching process? What would you say? Just hey, could you DJ?
My pitching process, I don't know, man. It's just straight up, hey, I'm a DJ. These guys are DJs. We want to throw a show. What do we need to do? What do we need to bring to the table in order for you to let us do a night here? And normally they would tell us, you need to sell X amount of tickets. We need to make X amount of money in order for it to be worth you taking over a night here. And we would then basically figure out, is this possible for us to make them this much money, even if we didn't get paid? And most of the time we did not get paid. For years we didn't get paid. Until we started to, and then when we started to, it was pretty good.
When was that first event and where?
The biggest event that we did was
the first event.
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I have no idea.
So I was wondering, were you nervous?
First event I ever DJ'd.
Yeah.
So I remember the first event I was gonna throw. We booked Cabaret Underworld.
Okay.
Does not exist anymore. We booked it for January 6th of. It was in December, we booked it for January 6th, and throughout the holidays, they closed and turned into Newspeak. So because they turned into Newspeak, the management changed, and old managers didn't tell us. I found out through an article they were closing. What's happening to our event?
Yeah.
Nothing, nobody told us anything. The new management was because we're just starting, we can't just do a random night with you guys. We have a plan in order. So we had to change location, and the first show we did was at Aprevoir. The lineup was the whole team and a few people from the dubstep community.
Okay. And this is all the people you just met from being in that group and that club, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, some people from high school, some people from high school as friends, some people from the Dawson Club. It really was just a network of people who were all very interested in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we did it. And that was a wild night, and it was really what kickstarted us to be we can do this. It didn't. I think for that venue we just had to put down a certain deposit. So we put down a small deposit to rent the lower part of the venue.
Yeah.
And it was dope. It was dope, man, and it really made us realize, if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere, and that's what kickstarted everything else.
Okay, sick.
The biggest show, the turning point show that we had. As that team, we booked Barely Alive. I don't know if you know who that is. So we booked a very large dubstep DJ that we loved, and back then
this is how long after that first event?
2 years or a year?
Okay, so for a year you're just going out and just doing all these clubs and
a year. I'd say a year and a half.
Okay.
So we started really going full force end of 2013, and this was end of 2015. So maybe a year and a half, 2 years of just constantly doing shows or finding shows or networking or.
Are you still in school at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we booked this artist, and this artist was big in general. The dubstep community is a fan, but not necessarily in the charts that big. We booked them for a smaller fee than what they would be charging now.
From Montreal?
From LA.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, we flew them from LA. And then...
How did you get into contact with them?
We just contacted their management or the booking agency.
Booking agency? Okay.
Yeah, the Circle Talent Agency.
Okay,
yeah.
so you're just emailing them. Cool.
Anyway, we booked for a small fee. And then after we booked, and after the contracts were signed, the artist came out as number 2 dubstep artist in the world on the Billboard charts. Yeah. So like we completely sold out the Belmont. Belmont's max capacity I think is just under 500, and we had like 700 people there.
Damn.
And people waiting in line so that when somebody would leave, they could replace them.
Yeah.
It was unreal. It was that was the last night that I performed for that big of a crowd. I think before I realized, hey, I don't want to perform anymore. I want to. Because I put that show together with this team. Obviously, I put that show together. I really put a lot of effort into the marketing of that show and to getting the people into that venue.
So during this, you're kind of learning marketing as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was studying marketing at the same time.
Oh,
I was studying marketing at the same time, and I just realized I like the idea of putting on the artists. I was constantly figuring out ways to help the different artists that we were working with brand each other, help them get their stuff out there, whatever. But it was really a side thing because I really wanted to focus on being an artist. But after that show, my perception on everything changed because I really enjoyed the, just the business aspect of creating these shows and putting on shows and marketing the artists that were at the shows. So after that night, I was I had a great time, had a great run. I like DJing, so I still do it once in a while, but really my main focus is and will be for going forward, marketing artists.
Freelancing wise though, were you, because I know you have a personal marketing thing, and then you have the LoClasse, right?
Yeah.
Which one started first?
LoClasse.
LoClasse
started first. Yeah. I had started doing independent marketing stuff prior to LoClasse, but it was so far and in between, I really wasn't doing it much that I wouldn't say I branded myself as that initially. LoClasse really came from, I know how to do this stuff. I've had practice with some businesses, and I've definitely had practice with artists. I want to get all of the talented people that I know together and figure out ways to utilize everybody's abilities to help each other out and to help others. And at the beginning, man, the team was huge, way too big, way too big. But everybody was super useful, and we would have meetings where I'm with some of the best photographers I've ever met, who I'm still friends with now, that I didn't know before Dawson, or I didn't know before reaching out on Instagram. I just would reach out to these people and be like, hey, love your stuff. You want to be a part of this? This is months before we had launched ourselves as LoClasse. I didn't even announce it to the public until 4 months or 3 months after the ideas and the meetings came about. But everything started rolling, and it started rolling fast. And as soon as that happened, I just, okay, you guys are the photographers of the team. Okay, you guys are the videographers of the team, the graphic designers of the team. I learned web design just so that I can launch this website. Really, I never, in my dreams, I thought I would ever learn web design in my life. That wasn't my thing. But I was I want to launch this website. Don't want to wait on other people. Don't have the money to hire other people to do this stuff. I was lucky just to have these photographers willing to be a part of something. But their time is valuable. Obviously, they need to get paid for what they're doing. So that was the goal, was everybody here is these talents, but not necessarily the client base or the exposure that was necessary. So we built this team and really just branded ourselves. We got these photos, got these videos going, got designs going, and just started promoting the concept of supporting local talent, look at all these talented artists that we're working with, look at all these creatives that are in need of exposure, take a look at their stuff.
Yeah, and it was a space where it was missing, right? Because there's no agencies really doing that for local artists in Montreal.
Exactly, and I tried to build a platform that allowed all of these artists to be seen, and I think that I've succeeded at a little bit, and we're getting there. Every day is a learning curve. Every day is a learning curve. Even now, years later, I'm still learning on how I can make this better.
Well, that's the fun part, right?
Yeah.
It's like a game, and you say. finding solutions.
My business partner, Alex, she's not here right now, she helped me start LoClasse from the beginning. Like,
I was going to ask about her actually. Like, how did you guys meet and how did that
we've been friends since we were like 13, 14.
Okay. And she was into music as well, so you guys just like with
she'd like to come to the events with me. She was always supportive. So before even starting the LoClasse stuff, she was with me at these events. When the idea came about, she was with me at every meeting. It just really
happened naturally.
Yeah, it happened naturally that we would work together from the beginning to make this happen, and I couldn't have done it without her. I won't lie. She kept me sane in times where I was going nuts, let me tell you.
For logo wise, I was wondering, like, what does that signify, like the upside down triangle?
It's a 17. There's lines in it that cut it out. You can't really tell if you don't know. But
I thought it was maybe like an L and a C, and then I was like trying to figure that out.
Well, there's that as well, kind of. But like that just happened afterwards. The idea was it's a 17. It stems from this symbol.
Illuminati.
No, it's something else entirely. But it stems from this symbol, and we played with it. Because it's an elemental symbol, but it also...
Oh yeah, isn't it like grounded?
I believe. Earth, I think. I don't remember which one. Honestly, that's not why. It's because it's a 17, and that's a whole other story, and that'll come one day. I'm starting something that has been in the works for like a year that will come at some point.
Okay, dope.
Look, tattooed to my arm.
17.
17.
Is it like an age?
Oh man, it's just I'm crazy. I'm just crazy. I think every business owner is a little neurotic, and that's my thing.
I feel any creative is like that.
I don't know, man. I see it everywhere, man. It started with just me. It started with somebody else who told me, and I was like, "You're crazy," and then I started seeing it everywhere. And then I told Alex, who I brought up before. And then she started seeing it everywhere, and then it kind of just spread in the friend group, and it's like, holy crap, man! Like,
are you just trying to find meaning to the 17, or do you already?
I think there is just I don't know. I sound crazy talking about it, man. Maybe we don't talk. Don't put this in the interview.
Because I wanted to talk about your marketing thing as well, but you said that came after.
Yeah, I mean, LoClasse definitely was my priority the first 2 years.
Why didn't you put it all under one thing? Like, why did you separate DP with?
It was all under one thing at the beginning, but LoClasse is for artists. LoClasse is for the creatives. My marketing stuff, I've worked with businesses of all kinds. Like I've worked with restaurants. I've worked with stuff like that, and I don't want to. I don't want to mix the music with, or not necessarily the music, but like I don't want to mix like the art with everything else. The artists have to be talented enough and driven enough to be worth the time that I put in. But man, I just want to work with artists. That is my passion to all of this. There's a issue in the Montreal music industry, in the Montreal music scene of competition over collaboration, and that's something I would love to break if I could, and that's why I work.
I'm with you on that for sure. Collaboration over competition.
That's why I work with so many people, and I try and I work with this group, I'll work with that group, I'll work with that group. It doesn't matter, but there's a lot of in the higher ups, in the people who are a little bit above me in terms of like their assets or their financial stability or their financial ability to book artists, whatever, like people who are just here. They have this competition ego trip going on with, I don't want to name names or anything, but like the big guys, the big heads in the Montreal music scene don't want to see the other big heads succeed. They want to monopolize the scene. So in order to do that, we've really lowered our chances of being seen by other people, because if one company has an audience of 100,000 people and another company has an audience of 75,000 people, they're never gonna get higher than that because they got the loyalty of those. Whereas if they were to work together at times, they would have 175,000 people who are watching their stuff.
And they're not throwing shows at the same time.
And the more people who are seeing your stuff, the more of a chance that people outside of Montreal are seeing your stuff. And that's why. It's really like, I don't know, man. It's
selfish in a sense.
It is. Right? There's an ego in the Montreal music scene that needs to be.
Yeah, because whatever in anything you do, when you collaborate, it's just working together is always the better solution.
I agree.
It's always the better way, and some people it's crazy how they just don't understand that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
But now with we have access to an audience.
Yeah.
Like anyone has access to an audience. So I feel like we could break that slowly.
Well, definitely now, since the pandemic, we have this whole new digital age that was already starting before, but now we have no choice. Mm-hmm. So you're right in the sense of, especially with what you're doing now, a lot of people are doing this. A lot of people are switching over to digital shows, Twitch live streams, stuff like that. And you're gaining audience that you would never gain before doing shows where people had to come to Montreal to watch them, mm-hmm. or people who were from Montreal were watching them. People now can advertise to anywhere in the world, and if you are an artist that have a similar vibe to an artist that, let's just say, my friend in LA likes Kaytranada, and I have an artist here who's like Kaytranada, and we do a live stream, I tell them, hey, you're gonna like this guy, you should watch it. All of a sudden you have an audience that's in LA that you never would have gotten before.
Exactly, yeah.
Now is the time for people to market themselves digitally. If you don't do it now, you're going to fall behind, and you're definitely not going to get where you could be going if you don't have an online brand, you don't have a social media presence that is a little higher than just your personal Instagram. Mm. You're a little unorganized online, whatever the case may be. If you don't step up to the digital plate, you're not going to further yourself. You're slowly
disintegrate for sure. You have to be present online to exist nowadays.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of old businesses with old owners that are super unaware of it, and they're just kind of in the mentality of, if it's not broken, you
don't fix it. Yeah. No, I know. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. But
it's gonna break.
It's gonna break. It's gonna break.
Think ahead. What's your research process in finding local talent?
So my research process in finding local talent is really just word of mouth, man. I know so many people who are in the scene now that it's
and the city is small enough that everybody's connected somehow.
I'll just hear one person tell me, yo, you should hear this song that so-and-so put out, and I'll be like, I've heard the name so-and-so, but I never actually heard their music. I'll listen, and then wow, that's really dope. Who else are they associated to? There's a group from the West Island, I think they're almost all from the West Island, called Kids from the Underground. Okay. They're super talented, man, and
what kind of music?
Hip hop, but I don't know if you know Anomaly. Their producer is unreal. Sam Ether, amazing producer. I discovered him at I went to a jam night at a bar that closed down a year ago or a year and a half ago, and I just saw these kids perform, and I was like, holy shit, man, these guys are super good, and they deserve way more of the visibility that they're getting. Sam is the one who stands out the most to me personally. No offense to anybody else, but just his production skill is unreal, man. Okay, he's actually getting to a point now where he's getting seen the way he should be, but he could always be getting seen more. He's really good, and I was just I never would have heard of them if it wasn't for my friend saying you should come to this small jam night, 50 people in the venue type thing. Yeah. And I saw them perform, and I was like, dude, these guys are amazing. And then you go to another type of show, I go to Belmont or something for a dubstep night, and I just I'm blown away by this 15-year-old kid who's performing, who got in with a fake ID. It's little things like that. The music scene here in Montreal is just popping. You just gotta look. You just gotta look. And a lot of people, again, brings us back to the whole ego issue, is they don't look at people outside of their circle. They have blinders on because they just want to watch their people grow, and they don't want to see the city grow.
Trust. I've been in situations where I tried connecting with certain higher people, and it's just they have this filter on, and it's so unnecessary. Just talk to me as a normal person,
I know the feeling. I've managed to break that barrier a few times, and it's cool and all. I've had nice conversations with some people, but again, everybody just looks out for themselves first, which I get it, man. I totally get looking out for yourself first. But if you're trying to put on the Montreal music scene, don't just try and put on this much of the Montreal music scene. Try and put on the Montreal music scene.
But I think that's more of a monetary situation.
It is. It is. At the end of the day, you are looking out for your business. You're looking out for the money you're making, and I totally respect that as a business owner.
But that's what I like about your process, because you're more artist first, and it's not you're just throwing up any artist, any kid that's oh, I'm a rapper, you're actually you see talent in them, and you're using your resources to put them on, and I feel that's a really good thing, and
appreciate it.
Montreal really needs that shit,
I've made the mistake of just putting on just anybody in the past. I've cared about the wrong artists in the past, but that's all part of, you know, just growing as a business owner, growing as a person.
Was it just like oh, I need somebody to fill the spot? Or
no, I mean, I've actually cared about these people, and you know, sometimes it was a mistake, but I think that everybody who I've worked with has helped me get to where I am now, no matter how it ended.
Yeah, because you're learning from it, right?
Yeah, I've learned from it. I appreciate the experience that came from it, and I'm like, I don't know, I have nothing bad to say about anybody, to be honest. Everybody has their own stuff, and everybody has their own, you know, their own drives, their own ambitions, and just do what you got to do to get there. You know, that's how I'm looking at it.
When did you go all into LoClasse? Like, because you had to make that decision at one point, right?
2017, April 17th, 2017.
What were the other opportunities there that you're like looking through at the time?
Well, I was still in school. I was still in school, and
you're still in marketing in school?
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, pursue school full time, just, you know, go get a job at a marketing agency, do this, do that, whatever. And I think something just clicked inside me, and I'll never be able to fully work for somebody else without feeling like I'm not fully succeeding. And that's when I realized I need to be my own boss. Even if I have contracts where I am working for somebody else here and there, I'm still doing it for me. So that was kind of like the tipping point for me, where it's like I don't think I'd ever be able to get a job.
Now looking back, like
I wish I had finished school.
You think?
I do wish I had finished school.
But for what reason?
Just for the reason of finishing school.
Because the diploma doesn't really have the value for you, but is it just?
I think it's a knowledge thing, and I also think it's an ego thing at the same time. I'm trying to finish what I start in terms of LoClasse, you know, and I'm always putting y'all in when it comes to the artists, and I will always do that, and that's one way of showing it, but it's also not the most orthodox way of showing it. And coming from an Italian family, like I have parents who, you know.
Yeah, what were they like when you were
They were very
decision?
supportive after they realized that I could actually make money. Okay. So at first,
that's such a hard decision. Man.
When I was a DJ, was when I started to have these thoughts. When I was DJing, when I was doing that other company first before LoClasse, and all that time, I don't think they fully supported me because I was missing some school. I was this, that, whatever. But as soon as things started happening with LoClasse, and the idea came about in September 2016, and then by January 2017, I had my first office. I was 2017. Yeah, I was like 20 years old, not even 19.
So you have your first office while you're still in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my first office. I got an office space that I was paying rent for every month, but we always made sure we made rent, and it was the size of, like, you know, it was maybe the size, like a 10 by 10 room.
Okay.
And it was 3 of us working in there around one L desk. You know, like it was crazy.
Oh, but is that what that? Okay.
That was that photo on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was Makeway Studios.
That is my office was inside of the old Makeway Studios.
Okay, so how did you meet? Like, how did you get involved with Makeway Studios? Just from getting that office space?
Somebody Alex knew somebody at Makeway, and I ended up meeting the owner of Makeway through her, and he, you know, was like, hey, I have this spot, and it's available if you want to rent it. You know, it's a couple $100 a month. It wasn't that much. I mean, it's a lot when you're a kid and you're trying to start a business and you don't have any other sources of income. Right, yeah. I think that was another mistake.
Were you working?
No, that's what I was about to say. That was another mistake. Was I didn't do any part-time job while I was doing this. This was literally, I literally just did all in, man. I didn't do anything else.
I mean, that's the right way to do it. But it's just,
I was so broke.
It is harder.
I was so broke at the beginning for the first.
But that like desperateness is gonna push you, you know.
Yeah, for sure. It did. Man. Good. It was like hard times, dude. But I literally survived off Monster energy drinks, ramen noodles from the depth, and there was a Domino's pizza next door that when we had enough money to get a pizza, that we would get a pizza, but it was such poor quality pizza that we were all sick afterwards. But we'd do it because it's the only food that was around.
Yeah.
You know?
Were you living on your own at this time?
No.
Okay.
No.
But you're basically living at the office. You're just there all the time.
I was there 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like I was there every day. We'd get there at 9 a.m. Sometimes we'd leave at midnight. We'd do it all over again every day. It was fucked. it was crazy. But it was a good time, and it was a learning experience. And
so when, like, after the office, how long after the office were you like, okay, I'm gonna like make the decision to, you know, I guess it was cut school?
I cut school So then I cut school, but then I went back, and then I cut school, and then I went back.
Okay. Why were you going back? Was it like your pressure?
Yeah, well, it was just not. It was for myself, you know. Okay. I went to finish at least DJing, and then I went back to. I decided I wanted to try Concordia in 2019, and I just.
What program?
I was just doing independent studies. I was taking marketing classes because I wanted to transition into JMSB.
Right.
But. No, like one semester of that while I'm running a business.
Yeah, while I'm working. Then the way they set it up too, like you have to get your grades to a certain level.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much for me, and it was taking away. I was spreading myself so thin that I was burning out, and I was taking away from, you know, the quality of my work that I was offering people, and I didn't want to do that. So I had to remove one of the things, and I figured. At that point, I was working another job. I had a contract doing corporate advertising for this big real estate company.
Okay.
I was doing LoClasse full time. I was doing events, and I was doing school. I wasn't sleeping. There's just so much talent in Montreal that.
And the timing is so right now. Too,
I was gonna say, you know, I was doing all that stuff and living a life. With this pandemic going on, I understand, you know, like we still gotta live our lives somehow, but. It's a little harder when, you know, you can't go out to restaurants, you can't go out to bars, you can't whatever. So like you have that extra little bit of brain power, I would say, to do what you're doing right now. And so grinding it out now is your best option. People think sometimes that their talent will be enough to get them seen, but that's why I created this business, was to tell people you're wrong. At the end of the day, you can be super talented. You have a crazy product that is like, you know, like way more talented than some of the people who are, you know, big and known. But if you don't know how to market that product and get that song seen or whatever, it's never gonna go past your basement. You need to push. People need to push. People need to get that branding. If you can't do it yourself, hire somebody to do it. It's worth the investment. If you're thinking, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, hire somebody to make sure that happens.
Yeah, because you're investing in yourself.
Exactly. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your future. Just do it.
It's just smarter too. Like it's like delegating the work. Like you don't have to do everything, you know?
Exactly. And that's something that even I had to learn, was delegation is important. Can't do everything yourself. Don't try and do everything yourself. If somebody's better than you at something, let them be better than you at it, and just bring them on board and say, hey, you're super talented at graphic design. I tried I tried doing graphic design for a bit. I can do some stuff, but I have this guy, Giustino Giotesio on Instagram, and he is unreal, dude. He is one of the most talented 3D rendering, graphic design stuff I've ever seen. He's always like my go-to guy when I have somebody who wants something that's in detail. I'll call him right away, because I know that I'll never be able to, well, not never, but I didn't put the time to get to that point, because I've been putting time to learn other stuff.
Exactly,
you know?
Yeah. There's only so much like time.
Exactly. You know, now I find I've had more time to learn different things. Like, for example, I mentioned it earlier to you in private, but I picked up photography because I spent the last 3, 4 years, 5 years directing photo shoots, getting people to, you know, like, I'll like organize the photographer, and I'll organize the clothing brand, and I'll organize the models and all whatever. But I was never behind the camera. But all of those years of doing that and putting it together, and like I had the vision for it, picking up a camera and being surrounded by all these talented people, it took no time for me to learn.
Muralfest, how did Muralfest happen?
That was actually unreal to me. It was within the first 6 months of having started the business. I didn't know that we had gotten seen like that, and I had a whole bunch of people who wanted to be a part of Mural Festival, and I knew I wanted to be a part of Mural Festival. So I happened to be able to talk to the right people at the right time. We got a tent just to like showcase all of these talented like clothing designers. Or I had somebody who now works for me full time. But back then he had started like a online magazine that showcased local fashion, and he wanted to be a part of it. You know, we had all these talented people who just wanted to showcase themselves. So I did what I could. I walked into the Muralfest offices and I was just like, hey, I want to do something. I want to be a part of this. How do I do it? And we managed to get a tent. We got the tent, and I said, look, I'm working with all of these crazy photographers, videographers, whatever. If you give us a bunch of press passes, I will get you a bunch of content for free. and no business is going to turn that down. So
like marketing content, like
marketing content that they could use in their own promo stuff.
Yeah.
As long as they credited the artist, the artist or the whatever, the photographer, videographer.
Right. Yeah.
The creative wasn't going to charge them for this because it was part of the deal that we had made.
Yeah, you're saving so much money from doing that.
So they were like 100%. Yeah. So we got like 5 press passes that ended up, cycling between different creatives and myself and whatnot. And just that was like, it was a lot. And back then, that was before Muralfest really, really blew up. Like they were on the cusp of just breaking out as like one of the biggest festivals in Montreal, but they weren't like fully there. And I happened to go at the right year, and I happened to do that. So the following year, they went from I think under 1 million people who attended to like 1.7 million in a year. They're like, they remembered us from the year prior. They gave us press passes again. We didn't even have to ask that time. And we just kept working with them. And this would have been year 4 or year 5 that we were working with them. And I'm really disappointed that, it didn't happen because it's my favorite time of the year. It's 10 days of just pure like fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Creativeness.
Networking, creatives. I grew up on graffiti. Before everything, I loved just seeing street art like that.
Yeah.
The fact that happened 6 months into my business, I was like, I can't believe we're working with Mural Festival already. Because to us, at least to myself anyway, it was a much bigger festival, and I saw the potential. But I think it's just because I had a passion for graffiti. The whole focus is the international street artists.
Right. Yeah.
But they had shows at the same time that were co-produced by different event companies from Montreal.
What are your future plans for LoClasse? Do you have any interesting ideas, events?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the pandemic hit and I took some time to just, to not, like, we had no events. We had no events, and we were in the process of, this was gonna be one of the biggest summers for LoClasse in terms of events. As soon as that happened, I was like, well, nothing to do now. Right. So I took a couple months where I just didn't do anything.
Did you think of doing anything during COVID, like any underground stuff?
No, I would never. Okay. I would never do that. So I took those few months off, and it really was like more of a mental health break, I think, which is super important. I'm saying this to all business owners, man. If you feel like you need the time, if you feel like you need anything that'll help your mental health, take it, because the more you dig yourself into that hole and the more you burn out, the worse it gets after. So I took that time, and I really just like took a break from everything. And then finally I was like, I think it's been long enough. Time to focus on work again. So I went back, I started focusing on how can I make sure that when the pandemic is over, LoClasse is still relevant. And I started putting in that effort into, finding artists that are emerging onto the scene right now and need that extra push. People who are already, known a little bit on the scene and need that extra establishment. I'd help them with their social media. I'd help them with photos. I just like Josh, who you've interviewed here in the past. He's a good friend of mine. I've been working with him since, like a few years now. And he just started a new project, Huda. And that's amazing. Like, I didn't know he could rap like that.
Yeah, fucking sick, right?
I didn't know he could rap like that until he showed me his projects, and I was like, well, shit, all right, I guess it's time we focus on that too, and I've been working with him on that. We're really...
Like, I liked how he saw that and he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go for it, and he's just doing it.
And he didn't give up on house music. He didn't give up on Relax Josh, which is dope.
And that's such a new way of thinking too, is like, I'm not just doing one thing, like I'm diversified. Like, you gotta be a diversified person, I feel. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I only do this.
I think that this pandemic gave a lot of us the ability to test the waters and what we could do business-wise, what we can do as artists, what we could do as whatever. We just have the time now. We have the ability to screw up if we spend a few months working on one type of art, and we realize I'm not that good at it.
Didn't you notice how like this summer felt like a high school summer? Like, it felt so long, and like it felt like you have so much, because it was all because we just had so much time.
We had time that we didn't have to burn by going to restaurants, by going to whatever, clubs, this,
and
that.
It's so like unconscious.
I
miss it too, but it's so unconscious of like how that stuff just distracts you.
You're like, at the millionth person to tell me that it felt like a high school summer. Like that specific.
Literally,
sentiment.
yeah, it literally felt like a high school summer.
It did feel like a high school summer. It's true, man. I did some things like I hadn't done since high school, where like, you know, we just go out to
the park and chill at
yeah,
park,
you know, like go to a like somewhere nature related rather than like going downtown all the time. Like I wasn't so city oriented the way I have been for the last like 10 years of my life. Mm-hmm. If you learned anything from this time, it's that, or at least if I've learned anything from this time, it's that, you know, nobody's gonna judge you if you try and pick up a new skill or a new art or a new whatever and you're not good at it right away, the way you would have thought beforehand, because, you know, life was happening. Mm-hmm. Life was moving, and you were expected to move along with it. Now life is on pause, you know, ish. Mm-hmm. So you have the ability to screw up. But for example, now that I picked up the camera and I happen to be good at it and I made that investment, when life goes back to normal, I have that skill set that I can use, you know, in clubs, in whatever. Mm-hmm. Especially for myself, man, I thrive. Like I've been doing events since longer than, like for more than half of my life, I've been working at or being involved in events. Mm-hmm. So my whole life that I can remember is really social. Yeah, I thrive on being with people and networking and this and that. So when all of that got cut out, well, I was left with, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. I used to read a novel a day when I was in high school, like that, to that extent. Like I loved reading. And
like
then
what kind of books? Like
just anything from fiction to
sick.
Like just all types of stuff, man. Yeah. I loved reading. And when CSHEP hit, I really slowed down, and then I honestly haven't picked up like a fun book in the last 3 years, I would say. And last week I decided I want to get back into reading. Bought a few books. I got a book on my phone because I'm always on my phone anyway, and all of a sudden I'm reading the way I used to read back when I was younger. Yeah. And it's things like that, you know, things that you forgot made you happy when
you're like tapping into
when adult life took over. Mm-hmm. You know, like, yeah, clubs make me happy. Yeah, being with people makes me happy. Yeah, restaurants make me happy. But at the same time, it's like money's dished out every week. You know, hundreds of dollars to go out and get a hangover sometimes. Yeah. You know, whereas.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I could just, you know, spend $60 and buy like enough books to last me a month. Mm-hmm. And
it's just remapping your brain in a sense, right?
Exactly. I don't know, man.
And like the pandemic, like no matter what, everybody who comes out of it, like now we're in a generation that lived through a pandemic, so like you know like what it's like for everything to be shut down. So like everybody's gonna be naturally more grateful and stuff. You know?
I think that this is a semi-educated guess because my mom works in the health field. Mm-hmm. So I know a little bit about what's going on, but I think that based on the rollout of the vaccine currently, we might start having shows again. Not necessarily festivals or stuff, but some small shows again by like July, August.
Of this year?
I think they might try and do an Osheaga, but later. Mm-hmm. But because they say by September, anybody who wants to be vaccinated will be vaccinated. Yeah. I can't wait to get that. I'm not going to buy it.
They are also saying, there's like new strains of shit and like all that. And then you gotta get 2 shots. It's like 1, and then you wait. And
it's really just, it's a guessing game because we don't know. We don't really know what's gonna happen. But I think that if we're lucky, we're gonna get small shows again in midsummer in Canada. Mm-hmm. Can't say the same for other parts of North America.
But yeah, anyways, man, I really appreciate you coming. Like, this is really early stages of what I'm trying to build. And
dude, thank you for having me. I'd come back anytime.
For sure, man. And I'm looking forward to some collaborative events in the future.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of collaborations I think that we could do, the two of us. Mm-hmm. So let's stay in touch and let's get this going, man.
Yeah, man.